How's it going, everyone? It's Shadow15 here to bring you another Alpha Talk once again. I know it's been a while because I've been just posting about everything else under the sun instead of Alpha Tail stuff or not the Alpha Talk. It's been a minute. I had to kind of take a little bit of time away for myself. I have been unfortunately getting myself not addicted, but playing a lot of Overwatch recently. So that's been something I've been doing a lot of recently. But a break is always needed, and sometimes, and I think everyone could use a good break every once in a while. But to the topic at hand, I want to talk about something that I feel like has been bothering other people in this community along with myself. Obviously, I can't speak so much on myself because it's not really been a problem for me as much as it's been for younger and more newer people who want to do what I did or just want to share their ideas through that medium. And that is that writing isn't looked upon as good as artwork and comics are in this community. And I know one of the things you're thinking about, right? You're thinking like, oh, well, what about AlphaTalk, or what about the Dust Tale novel? And I'm like, yeah, that's great. Like those did good. Like one of the things you should know is that AlphaTale, it was brand new. There was nothing really like it, and so of course people kind of clamored to that and what it was doing. And the only way to do that was to read it at the time. There was no comic, there was no animation, and the Dust Tale. In the Dust Tale novel, I mean, like, come on, think about it. It's the creator of Dust Tale making a novel. Like, of course, people are going to clamor to it. What I'm saying is that there were advantages that me and the creator behind Dust Tale had in terms of that stuff, but other younger writers may not have that or don't have that at all, really. And I think it's terrible that they're having to compete against people who are being looked at naturally as being exceptional because they can draw really, really good. And I'm not saying this to say it. I'm not saying this to say that artists should be ashamed in the slightest. They have nothing to be ashamed about at all. You are successful in you either are successful or are striving for success in a path, a career path that ultimately a lot of people don't have the privilege to often succeed in. Definitely one of the more difficult ones. But I will say, I do believe that writing is looked down upon a little too much, especially in the current generation or in the current years going forward onwards. And that's not to say it's anybody's fault either, because times change, people change, and there are obviously going to be different interests in certain things. But it's only unfortunate that I'll say this definitely adds more context and more validity to the fact that our society is becoming less and less capable of just being able to sit down and intake information than they are just able to watch it. And of course, there are those people who are able to hold in things better in their minds when they see it rather than they just read it. Not to say none of that, not to say against any of that. I mean to say, but I do want to speak out, not for myself but for others in that medium, that are being basically pushed to the side because they can't draw and they can't animate, and that definitely comes from the pre-notion facts that the community kind of started out that way, or it did really start out that way. You had people writing up concept arts for Underfell and Underswap, and you had people clamoring to those things because they could see it. They didn't have to read about it. And I think that has definitely, unfortunately, set a prejudice in people's mind that the only thing that can be acknowledged in this community and the only thing that can be clamored to, the only thing that can be looked at as successful is good artwork or good animation. And it's really sad because I know for a fact, being who I am and working along with other young writers, being a writer myself, being definitely in the more underbelly of the community, if regardless of how you may see me as, I definitely do a lot more work in the more underside of this community, which means I get to see the people who give up. I get to see the people who, in all intents and purposes, have lost hope in their projects coming to fruition because they wanted to put out something. They wanted to put out something unique. They wanted to put out something special. And even if it wouldn't have been really great at the time, it could have at least garnered some sort of following. But because some artist decided to put out a piece of artwork that showed off Sans in a different kind of hoodie or showed off Frisk in a different kind of sweater, that is going to completely overwash over someone else's entire writing. And that is sad. That is very sad and very devastating to always hear about. Young writers always wanting to do something unique, do something special, and they get underturned or get completely looked away from because people don't want to read, they just want to look, they want to see. Even though when it comes to comics, you have to do a little bit of reading, and maybe that's it. Maybe that's because you only have to do a little bit of reading. You don't do a lot of reading. And it's almost detestable to see how the community has just treated its writing side as much as it has. And again, I don't speak for myself because in all intents and purposes, AlphaTalk has a far better to say, I guess to put it in a better way. AlphaTalk was at the time was brought up at a time when writing wasn't all too prevalent. There obviously were other artworks like Undertale Row, obviously, to give a really good example. Undertale Row was a literary piece that was being done at the time by AlphaTalk, and I think that it just wasn't, at the time, there wasn't a lot going on, at least in terms of content. Not content-wise, of course, because we had Underverse at the time. We still moderately do. But there wasn't really truly a lot in terms of what AlphaTalk was offering. And when the word got out about what it was offering, people were like, oh, there must be a comic or there must be an animation. It was like, no, you can only read it. And so people basically, had to force themselves to get into it. And that made that circle, that community of readers. And I suppose I am also glad for its existence in that case, because I'm able to now come here and talk about how writing should be looked at as equals when it comes to artwork in this community. And you can also say the same thing for other communities as well. I don't think you can say so much for like communities like SCP or the back rooms, if you want to consider them in some sort of artwork and literary struggle. But I can say it definitely for other things like you can do the Sonic community is a good example of that too as well. A lot of artwork looked at as being exceptional rather than the literary side of it all, because the comics are good, but it requires writing to do that. People have to write to do those things. And I think it kind of stems down to the fact that people tend to look at writing as not as great as artwork or not as great as animation. Even though, writing does hold it should hold, at least to me, and maybe others as well. Let me know what you think in the comments as well on what you think. But I believe writing should be held to a greater level than it is right now. Because writers shouldn't be having to feel like as if they can't post their stuff because someone decided to make a whole new version of Fellswap, and that's what everyone's clamoring about right now, even though there's nothing written about it, and it's just a Sans design, a papyrus Toriel, and maybe Frisk even. You know, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right in the slightest. In fact, I think it's terrible. I think it's terrible that that standard is being put into people's minds in this community. And I guess another thing to also make note of is that artwork isn't everything. It's not. It can be really, really good. And I guess I'm going to use this moment to kind of give validity to artwork right now. Artwork is really, really fantastic. I think people who can draw, like the best of them, have done a phenomenal job. They, like I said before, are working in a career path that ultimately a lot of people would tell you is hopeless. And you have to be incredibly exceptional to be great at. Same thing for animation as well, to put in the same group. But it's not everything. It's not. And I think people tend to misconstrue on what artwork is truly meant to do. Artwork, in its rawest form, is a form of expression. It is a form of... What's a good way to put it? It's good flavor. For a lack of better terms, I think it's really, really good flavor to something. It can lift something up to a more greater level than it already was. Now, artwork by itself, that's a whole different subject. But in terms of what it is meant to represent, I think it is very much a form of expression that does wonders more often than not when it is accompanied by something else or context as well. You know, specifically in this discussion, writing. A good example of this I can bring up is series like One Punch Man and Berserk to kind of give the two side to sides. I'm going to use One Punch Man as an example, and then I'm going to move over to Berserk. So let's go ahead. One Punch Man is it's a good series. I never say it's great because I think I've been following the mangaka one for a long while, especially when he was doing Mob, and I liked it when he was doing that, and I of course like the same thing as well for One Punch Man 2. The artwork for the re-illustration of One Punch Man through the other artist, the artist behind One Punch Man, Yuzuki Muruta, I know for a fact he is a fantastic artist. If you look at any of his panels, any of his artwork, he is fantastic. It's phenomenal. It's great. It's beautiful. Absolutely makes you drool. The artwork is so fantastic. But it shouldn't be everything that people look at. Like I said, the artwork should give life. It should express and give more to what a piece of media is trying to say or trying to do. I think because, and I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Mob Psycho 100 ever got the same treatment as One Punch Man did in terms of getting re-illustrated. I think it very much was just, one drawing it out. And I think that is a good sign as well, before I move on to Berserk. I think it's a good sign of artwork isn't everything. People love Mob Psycho 100 not because of its artwork and not just because of its animation, but because of the fact that those two mediums are able to elevate the writing and the story of the series itself to new heights. And I believe that's what artwork should be for. Obviously, as I said before, artwork by itself, whole other topic. But in terms of what it is being paired up with, I think it is always at its best when it is elevating the writing of a series itself, or the writing of a series. But let's move on to my other example, and that is Berserk. Berserk, I don't need to say anything about the artwork. It's beyond words. It's a masterpiece. It's phenomenal. It is, absolutely. It's like a painting. A lot of the times, I believe they even have a whole museum out for it now, which honestly it entirely deserves. It's fantastic. There's no denying the incredible artwork that uh, Ki. Oh my goodness, I'm completely botching his name right now. The author Kentaro Miura. There's nothing. Oh my goodness, I can't find any words. There's well, to be fair, there's really nothing else I can say that no one else hasn't already said. He's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal writer. Wrote a great series, and rest in peace to him as well. By the way, I don't know if I've. I mean, I'm sure I've also sent out my condolences and said my piece to him as well. But he's a phenomenal writer, and I believe that the piece Berserk is a good showing of artwork giving more life to something where it otherwise by itself probably couldn't have. I think by itself the artwork in Berserk is phenomenal, of course. It's majestic, it's divine. But without the context, without the plot, without the characters, the writing, it would just be art. But when you look at it with the panels, when you look at it with the when you look at it with the events that happen in the story, it becomes more than just art. It goes beyond that. It's almost transcendental, actually. And I think in that case, it does exactly what I believe that artwork should be doing when it comes to writing and giving more life to something else. It transcends it. That's what I believe it should be doing. And I suppose to round back to the Undertale AU community, I think that it's rather devastating that people don't realize how valuable writing is in the community. I think that it's terrible that there are people out there that look to the writing in by itself and can't wrap their heads around it as being something substantial without the artwork. When in most cases it very much is that. It is just that. You see other great series out there in this community, like Aftertale, Reaper Tale, and even the Dust Tale as well. Really great, innovative works that completely turn the head of Undertale's plot around and make something new out of it. I guarantee you people would not like those pieces if it was just the art. They would not like it at all. There's no enjoyment from just looking at a piece and seeing someone talk about it in a sense that it has more than what it is. If that makes any sense, I mean. And I know I don't want anyone to be, looking to this video as a prime example of, he said this, so this should be the norm. It should be something that everybody should do. I think I would never say that artists should suddenly start wanting to collaborate with writers for free or anything like that. Artists have it hard enough trying to make a life for themselves, being artists, especially in a world where a lot of the times they often are given jobs that they don't want, and they are doing things that they ultimately don't want to do. So I think that I don't think I want. No, I know I don't. I don't want artists to feel obligated at all, and I'm sure they don't, but just to say it, I don't want them to feel obligated to suddenly have to work with writers, for free. That's very much your own choice. That is very much your own path as well. There should be nothing in the world telling you that your worth should be attached to someone else's as well. No one's saying that at all. And I'm also not saying that writers need to also they also need to find an artist to get themselves high up on the pecking order. That's not true at all. I definitely say in the current time, and especially economy, society, and all that other fancy words for our people or the people or humanity right now. I definitely say that especially with how scarce, not scarce, but how do you put it? Hello, my cat. Sorry. But in a time where money is crucial right now, you shouldn't have to do that. All I'm saying is that I would like more eyes on the writing side of communities, and I know I speak about the writing community in here, but I want to extend that to every community as well. I want to extend that to every community too, as well, and I want that to be something that is I want that to be something that becomes the norm. I want there to be more of a I want there to be more of a line of people who look to the writing in communities more than they do just the artwork. Because as I said before, and as I've given examples before, it's more than that. It's so much more than that. People shouldn't feel bad for wanting to write their stuff. They shouldn't feel like they don't have a chance in their respective communities because they write and other people draw. They should never feel that way. And sorry. And I want to start that by I want to start that. I want to make it my mission to start. Goodness. I want to make it my mission to start that movement towards more eyes to the writing community of fandoms by starting a wiki, maybe even a wiki dot, I don't know, whichever one. But I want to officially start a wiki that will hold the writing of fandoms in it. I want to do that. I want to do a wiki that if you are interested in a certain fandom and you want to see what it's written and not what it's just drawn, you should be able to go to a wiki to find that out. That's something I want to do. And I don't have anyone for that idea just yet, but it is something I really want to do. It is a project I've been thinking about for a long while. And it's because it's more than just me, I feel. I've been given a lot of love and support, especially even how do I put it? I've been given a lot of love and support, regardless of the fact that I don't draw all the time and that I can't be an artist all the time. I do my best. I do my best to provide a visual medium for people, but it's just not who I am. It's not what I love to do. And I know that goes for a lot of other writers too. They want to provide and they want to be that extra bit that they can give out to their communities, but sometimes you can't. Especially in this day and age where money is so crucial right now, and it's just like you can't afford to spend hundreds of dollars on an artist. Again, not bashing artists. Price your work at what you may, but just know that not everyone can afford that kind of stuff nowadays. And I guess to put my own 2 cents in there, I think regardless, and this may kind of come off a little harsh, and you're welcome to agree or disagree with me in the comments below, but I think that artists should, especially ones doing commissions, I think they should probably apply their prices a little bit more towards a certain group of people that are able to afford it more easily. If not, they should. If they can't, which again, this is just me saying this. I'm not saying that you should or they should at all. You know, if your artwork is very much worth more than that, please, by all means, continue to price it at what it is. I think, you know, you work hard enough as it is. But it's just, I guess it's just my own thoughts. I'm just speaking out loud. I think there should be more of a focus applied when it comes to commissions, especially artwork wise. There should be more of a focus towards the middle class of people than there should be towards the upper middle class of people, which is where most commission artists tend to put their prices at. So I just wanted to put that out there. But again, as I said before, I want to start a wiki for artists that will allow for them to be able to share their pieces with their respective fandoms without the need to compete against artists all the time. I think it'd be really good. I think it would be really good for communities. I really, really do. And I'm sure communities have that for their own wikis and stuff like that as well. But I want to do that. I want to make it. I want to make a big one for it. A big, nice conglomerate wiki that if you're a part of a fandom and you want to ask yourself, I wonder if they have a writing. I wonder what the writing side of this community is doing. I want you to be able to find that. And you probably might not be able to, because what you're probably looking at more than half the time is the art side of things. And I want to change it to where you can now look at the writing side. But goodness, it's almost been 30 minutes I've been talking. But I just wanted to do this AlphaTalk. Talk majorly around the Undertale EU community, but also share that project idea I've been having for a while. I hope that this will reach other people, that this will reach the Undertale community, especially the Undertale EU community, and will let some people know that there are really good stories out there in the community, but they get buried underneath constant artwork all the time. And that I think the community would do better if they focused a little less on always elevating art and elevated innovation and creativity in the literary side of things a little bit more. But this has been your AlphaTalk. Thank you so much once again for listening to me ramble on, as I tend to. Thank you once again for your love and support and appreciation. I want to obviously give shout outs to the to the fans of Alpharoon, by the way, as well. You guys have been showing your love and appreciation for the work, and I greatly appreciate that. I really, really do. Alpharoon has been trending wonderfully on the Undertale AU wiki for almost like half a year now, and I greatly appreciate that. I really do. Thank you guys so much, and I hope that I can get this project through the door, and that we can hopefully see a big change when it comes to how communities view their more creative sides. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Ta-ta.